Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to another live streaming of task training. Our topic for tonight is the third part, no, ng implementing guidelines of the CREATE law, and we will have our task updates, no. So, good evening, everyone. At maulan, no, maulan masyado ngayon dahil may bagyo, no. So, uh, Maayong gabi sa tanang mga taga Cebu, Mindanao. Maayong gabi sa mga taga Iloilo, at sa mga taga Pampanga. Maayop na bengi kekungan sa mga taga ibang parte po ng Pilipinas. Magandang gabi sa inyong lahat, no? Tsaka sa hindi Filipinos, good evening everyone. No? Welcome sa ating live streaming on task training. Shout out, Hari.
Good evening po sa lahat ng viewers. Shout out po kay Ma'am Rowena Texera. Good PM daw, Ma'am. Rainy Thursday daw po. And kay Ma'am Lilia Fernando. Good evening daw po.
Ma'am Lilia. Thank you po sa peanut butter ni Ma'am Lilia.
Good evening din daw, Ma'am. Galing kay Ma'am Elvie Galanido. And
taga Bohol, no?
Apo, taga Bohol po. And kay Ma'am Liana Viloria, good evening daw po sa lahat.
Okay.
Shoutout din po kay Ma'am Eunice Punsalan. Kay Ma'am Julie Principe, good PM daw po.
Always. Okay.
And kay Sir Eugene Cruz, good evening daw po, Ma'am Elsa. And kay Wanang Masikap, good evening daw po.
Okay.
Shoutout din po kay June Sarmiento. And kay Love Me Again, Ed. Good evening daw po.
Okay.
Sila pa lang po, Ma'am.
Okay. So, good evening po, no, sa lahat ng mga viewers natin. Thank you very much for being with us tonight, no, kahit na maulan, sobra, no. Pero kasama naman sa natin 'yan sa panahon, no, sa panahon natin. Parang hindi kumpleto yung isang taon pag walang bagyo, no. Okay. So, let's discuss again about the hindi ko pa kasi natin tapos i-discuss yung implementing rules, guidelines para sa CREATE law natin. Because itong Chapter 13, ito yung mga tax incentives, ito yung marami. No? At ito yung pinaka-substance ng CREATE law, no? Yung mga incentives na ibibigay niya sa mga taxpayers because nga nagka-COVID, so may mga incentives para matulungan yung ating mga business taxpayers, no? Pagdating naman po sa tax update natin, wala naman tayong masyadong bago sa tax updates natin. Only yung gusto ko lang emphasize, yung mga withholding agents, no? Designated as top withholding agents. Meron ng bagong listing na binigay ang BAR. So, pagka kasama po tayo sa listing ng top withholding agents, then aside from the previous withholding na ginagawa natin doon sa ating mga operating expenses, ano ba yung mga operating expenses natin? We have rental, we have salaries and wages, yung mga labor natin, no? May withholding talaga yon. So kahit hindi ka top withholding agents, yung mga operating expenses mo, i-withhold mo yon. Yung utilities na 2%, no? So, i-withhold mo yon. Ngayon na ikaw ay isang top withholding agents na, yung purchases mo sa direct cost mo, may withholding na rin, no? Ano ba yung mga direct cost mo? Ito yung purchases mo ng goods or ng services na directly nakasama doon sa cost mo na ino-offer mo as your services or yung binibenta mo na goods, no? So, pagka seller of goods ka, magwi-withhold ka ng 1% dun sa purchases of goods mo. Pag ikaw naman ay nagbibigay ng services at meron ka cost, direct cost of your services, nag-hire ka halimbawa ng consultants, ng mga engineers, so magwi-withhold ka naman ng 2% dun sa direct cost mo. Of course, dun sa employees, ang withholding mo doon, compensation, no? Withholding tax on compensation, tuloy-tuloy yun. Kahit na direct cost siya, kahit na operating expenses yung salaries mo, magwi-withhold ka talaga doon ng withholding tax and compensation. So, pagka ang isang taxpayer naka-receive na ng top withholding agents na letter, na ibig sabihin classified siya as top withholding agent, then it will start na, alam ko yung bagong sa 82 ba yun? 20-21, yung mga naka-receive na ng letters na top withholding agent sila, mag-uumpisa silang mag-withhold this coming August 1. No? So, kung mag-umpisa ka ng August 1, kailan mo yan i-remit? September. No? The deadline is September 10. So, yun po yung sa tax updates natin, yung mga bagong listing ng top withholding agents, nilabas na po ng BAR. So, yung mga nandun na kasama sa top withholding agents, it is your duty na mag-withhold sa direct cost at saka sa purchases. No? On top of the operating expenses na may withholding. Okay. Sige. So, let's now go to the part 3 of our tax incentives under the CREATE law. No? Shout out ulit, Hari.
Meron po.
Okay.
Shoutout po kay Ma'am Samara Martilino. And kay Ma'am Shinalyn Fernandez. Good evening
Okay.
daw po. Shoutout din po kay Joanna Marie Moolik from Pangasinan.
Wow.
And then kay Ma'am Nadia Dumatsky.
Okay.
And kay Ma'am Lisa Soronda. Good evening daw po.
Okay.
Sila pa lang po.
Okay. So, shout out po sa mga viewers natin. Oh, thank you very much for watching. And let's now discuss the tax incentives. No? Ano ba yung mga tax incentives na we have learned nung nakaraan? Tax incentives on the payment of value-added tax on export, no? Yung accelerated sales natin. And then we also have our incentives on the purchase of equipment, no? Na hindi na kailangan magbayad ng import duties. No? So, ngayon, ang pag-usapan natin is the Rule 3 naman on the period of availment of incentives. Hanggang kailan ba ito ina-avail? No? So, under Section 1 of Rule 3, period of availment for export enterprises is from 4 years to 7 years. So, depende kung ano yung ni-loans o binigay na in-avail na incentive. No? Kasi meron siyang 4 up to 7 years. Depending on the location and industry priorities and followed by special corporate income tax on enhanced deductions for 10 years. So, halimbawa, nag-avail ka ng incentives na 4 years. After that, pwede ka pang mag-avail ng enhanced deductions. Ano yung mga enhanced deductions natin? Which we discussed previously. Yun yung mga 100% additional dun sa research and development, tapos 50% dun sa ibang mga expenses, no? Sa ibang mga expenses, plus 100%. So, yun yung tinatawag na enhanced deductions. So, halimbawa yung expenses mo is 100,000. Because of the enhanced deductions, halimbawa na plus 100,000. So, instead na yung actual mo na deductions ng 100,000, under the law, under the CREATE law, magiging 200,000 yung i-claim mo. Kaya yun po yung tinatawag na enhanced deductions. So, you are benefited, no? And the enhanced deductions for 10 years. Kailan mo ma-avail yung enhanced deduction? Up to 10 years. After you avail of the 4 or 7 years na exemption. No? So, the option to avail of either ECIT or the simplified corporate income tax or enhanced deductions after the income tax holiday period shall be exercised by the registered business enterprise at the time of application for registration of the project with the concerned IPA, no? Investment Promotion Agencies, no? Yun yung IPA. Such option, no, can be simplified corporate income tax or enhanced deduction shall be revocable for the entire duration of entitlement of such incentives. So, kailan siya irrevocable? Halimbawa, in-avail mo is 4 plus 10 years enhanced deduction. So, 14 years. yung inavail mo is 7 years, plus enhanced deduction of 10 years, so 17 years, irrevocable po siya. Okay. So period of availment for domestic market enterprise is 4 years also and 7 years, followed by the enhanced deduction of 5 years. Samantalang dito sa export enterprises, 4 to 7 years din sila ang income tax holiday plus enhanced deductions of 10 years. Samantalang sa domestic, income tax holiday for 4 to 7 years and the enhanced deduction is only 5 years, no? So, 5 years lang. Samantalang yung export enterprises, 10 years, no? Okay. Next is the qualified expansion, Section 3. Entirely new project or existing registered projects or activities. Limbawa, yung nag-avail ng incentives mo is the existing enterprise na. Tapos mayroon kang new project, no? So, a qualified expansion entirely new project or existing registered projects or activities prior to the effectivity of this Act may register and avail of the incentives granted under the Act. So, yung existing na, pwede pa rin mag-avail and yung mga bagong projects pwede rin. So, under the Act for the prescribed period, subject to the criteria and conditions set forth in the SIPP, ito yung Strategic Industry Program, no? In effect at the time of application and performance review by the Financial Incentives Review Board, FIRB, provided that after the expiration of the transitory period under Section 311C of the Code, export enterprises registered prior to the effectivity of this Act shall have the option to reapply, no? So, mag-apply ulit. Reapply and avail of the incentives granted under the Act for the same period provided under Section 1 of this rule. So, yung mga mag-i-expire na yung incentives nila, pwede pa rin sila mag-reapply. So, for this purpose, RBS or Registered Business Enterprises who avail of the transitory provision and incentives under this Act on reapplication will not be eligible to apply for new incentives under the Act for their existing activities unless there is qualified expansion, entirely new project, or additional investments. No? So, yung mga bago, mag-apply sila, no, if they are available, if they are qualified. Qualified expansion projects or activities defined under Rule 1, Section 3U may be granted an ITH, income tax holiday, for 3 years. So, yun yung mga expansion projects. Provided that the application, so ito yung expansion projects. Provided the application for tax incentives for a qualified expansion project or activity shall be approved by the FIRB or concerned IPA, as the case may be, based on the amount of investment capital of the expansion project or activity. No? So, ano ang basis nila for the approval? Yung amount of investment capital. No? Okay, so kailan mag-start yung period of availment? Period of availment of the foregoing income tax-based incentive shall commence from the actual start of commercial operations with the RBE availing of the tax incentives within 3 years from the date of registration. Excuse me. Prioritization and tailoring. The determination of the category shall be based on the both location and industry of the registered person or activity and other relevant factors as may be defined by the SIPP, no, yung strategic investment. The location of the registered project or activity shall be prioritized according to the level of development as follows. National Capital Region, Metro Manila area or areas contiguous and adjacent to the NCR. All other areas, the metropolitan area shall be determined by the NEDA. The industry of the registered project or activity shall be prioritized according to the national industrial strategy specified in the SIPP. No? So the SIPP shall define the coverage of the tiers and provide the conditions for clarifying the activity. No? Yung ibig sabihin ng SIPP, Strategic Investment Priority Plan, no? So, SIPP is Strategic Investment Priority Plan. Okay. So, kailan yung start ng period? Commence from the actual start of commercial operations with the RBE, Registered Business Enterprise, availing of the tax incentives within 3 years. No? From the date of registration, unless otherwise provided in the Strategic Investment Priority Plan and its corresponding guidelines. Prioritization and tiering. The determination of the category shall be based on the both location and industry of the registered project or activity and other relevant factors as may be defined in the SIPP. No? So the location of the registered project or activity shall be prioritized according to the level of development as follows. Number 1, National Capital Region. 2, Metropolitan Area or areas contiguous and adjacent to the NCR. And 3, all other areas. No? So the metropolitan areas shall be determined by the NEDA. The industry of the registered project or activity shall be prioritized according to the national industry strategies specified in the SIIP. The SIPP shall define the coverage of the tiers and provide the conditions for qualifying activities. No? So, yan na po yung prioritization and tiering. No? Parang yan na yung marketing. No? So, Section 6, period of availment of incentives based on location and industry priorities. No? So, for letter A, for export activities. No? So, yung export activities talagang, ano yan, zero rated sale yan, subsidized yan. No? Location industry tiers, National Capital Region. Tier 1, number of years 4 plus income tax holiday plus 10 years na expanded deductions and then the simplified corporate income tax. No? So tier number 3, 5 years income tax holiday from 10 plus 10 enhanced deduction or the simplified corporate income tax. Tier 3, number of years, 6 income tax holiday plus 10 expanded deductions plus the simplified corporate income tax. Sa metropolitan areas, halos pareho lang pero nag-start po sila ng 5th income tax holiday. Okay. So all areas on Tier 1, 6 income tax holiday. Tier 2, 7 income tax holiday. Tier 3, 7 income tax holiday. Income tax deduction. No? 7 income tax holiday plus 10 expanded deductions plus simplified corporate income tax. So yun yung mga incentives, no? Okay, so domestic market activities. Domestic market activities, ibig sabihin walang export, no? Walang pumupunta sa ibang bansa. Domestic lang. Metropolitan areas or areas contiguous and adjacent to national capital region. No? So, number of years is 5 income tax holiday plus 5 years expanded deductions. No? Yun yung AD. Tier 2 naman, sa metropolitan areas, 6 income tax holiday plus 5 expanded deductions, no? 5 years. Tier 3, 7 income tax holiday plus 5 years enhanced deductions. No? Okay. So all other areas, 6 income tax holiday plus 5 expanded deductions. For Tier 2, 7 years income tax holiday plus 5 expanded deductions. Also, Tier 3, 7 income tax holiday plus 5 expanded deductions. So, yun ang mga ma-avail ng companies kung mag-a-apply sila ng application for the availment of incentives, no, under the CREATE law. So, what are the projects or activities located in areas recovering from armed conflict or a major disaster? No? So, yun ang tinatanong niya dito. Kasi ito yung mga kawawa talaga. No? So, in addition to the incentives provided in the preceding section, projects or activities of registered business enterprises located in areas recovering from armed conflict or a major disaster shall be entitled to 2 additional years of income tax holiday, subject to the following. A, declaration of the President or his authorized representatives of the existence of an armed conflict or a major disaster including pandemic, epidemic, super typhoon, or other analogous circumstances. Letter B, the issuance of a presidential directive for the implementation of recovery program of the affected area or areas. Okay. Projects or activities relocating from the national capital region. Project or activities registered prior to effectivity of the Act or registered under this Act that will completely relocate from NCR during the period of their incentive shall be entitled to 3 additional years of ITH, no? So, may additional 3 siya na income tax holiday. Commence at the completion of the relocation of operations. So, letter A, for an existing project or activity registered under the Act, the additional 3 years of income tax holiday shall commence after the expiration of the period of incentives granted under the certificate of registration issued to the registered business enterprise. For an existing project or activity under the transition period of this Act, the additional 3 years of income tax holiday shall commence after the expiration of the transition period provided under this Act. Excuse me. So the concerned IPA shall issue a certificate, no, or CT to the concerned RBA as proof of its entitlement to the additional 3 years of ITH, no, income tax holiday. Complete relocation shall mean the total physical relocation of the facilities outside of NCR, including the transfer of the full operations of the registered project or activity to the new area of operations. May mga questions na?
Meron na po, ma'am.
Sige, before we go through the strategic investment priority plan, no, kung ano yung mga priority programs po ng bansa natin, before we go through it, question and answer muna tayo. Nabusog ako sa avocado, no? Sarap po ng avocado, yung galing sa farm, no? Sige. Okay.
Apo. First question, ma'am, galing po kay Eliza.
Okay.
Good evening po. May I ask your opinion regarding imposition of 12% VAT BIR RR9 2021? Our company is registered as a Clark Freeport Enterprise
Sa
and
Clark.
Apo.
Yung may mga incentives kayo dyan, concessionaire kayo ng PESA, no? Parang may exemption sa Clark na binibigay. Okay.
Tuloy ko, ma'am. Yung our company is registered as a Clark Freeport Enterprise and our suppliers from PESA is insisting that they will charge us 12% VAT. Is it correct to do so? Or we can refuse since DOF and BIR is currently discussing it?
Mayroon na kasing na Indas 2021 na subject na siya eh. Kasi lalo-lalo na naka-embody pa yan doon sa create law under the refund system ng VAT. Eh ngayon meron na silang refund system. So tinatax na nila ngayon yung kasi ang kung supplier yung supplier nyo is the local supplier or the PESA, and then kayo dito lang sa Pilipinas, yung pagkakabili nyo, hindi siya considered na export, no? Kaya, tinatax na nila kayo ng 12%. Anyway, kahit na kasi under discussion pa na yung 9-2021, it already took effect, no? Kaya, under debate pa, unless na yung BIR gagawa siya ng bagong regulations, in effect talaga yung 9-2021. Kaya, ang gagawin ng supplier nyo, mag-a-add-on talaga sila ng 12%. No? Kasi wala pa namang clear na regulations na hindi na subject, no, sa 12% VAT. So, since may regulations na na-subject, i-implement nila talaga yan. Otherwise, mape-penalty sila for those enterprises na hindi sumusunod. No? Ganun po. Kaya nagkakagulo dyan eh. Kasi parang tinulugan lang natin yung provisions na yan ng nasa train law. Pero nung na-implement na, saka natin naramdaman na mabigat pala siya. No? Kasi yung mga dating constructive export na zero-rated, imagine ngayon subject na to VAT. Tinanggal na yung kanilang pagiging zero-rated. So, ang bigat. No? Ang daming tatamaan dyan kasi marami yung nag-a-avail dyan at sinadya talaga yan ng create law na tanggalin. No? Anyway, dun sa mga incentives, no? Kasi nagiging problema yan even in transfer pricing na ang daming mga incentives. So, mataas yung ating tax rates but nawawala yung bisa ng pagkataas ng ating tax rate because of so many incentives given to the taxpayers. No? So ano yung proposal? Remove all the incentives, remove all the exemptions, but lower the tax rate. No? So that is one of the proposal ng ating mga global policy makers on taxation. Ngayon, binigay lang nila na balik yung maraming mga incentives because nga nagkaroon ng COVID. No? But the plan po talaga is to remove all the exemptions and then lower the rate of tax. No? Kasi ganun din, mataas yung tax rates natin sa income tax, ang dami namang incentives, ang dami namang exemptions. So, useless din, wala rin. No? Okay. Next.
Next po, ma'am, galing po kay Maylin.
Okay.
Ma'am, may business po akong apartment na renting.
Oh.
Paano po mag-encode ng second quarter sa 1701Q kapag optional standard deduction? Ano po pwede kong gawin para mag-less yung bayad ko ng...
Yung optional standard deductions, dapat doon sa first quarter mo pa na pag-file, chinek mo na yon. Kasi kung gagawin mo, ngayon ka mag-check, hindi na po tatanggapin ng system. nakatali ka doon sa kung ano yung chinek mo noong first quarter. Halimbawa, noong first quarter, ginamit mo yung OSD, Optional Standard Deductions. Pagdating na sa second quarter, third quarter, hindi ka na pwedeng mamili ng ibang deductions, no? Napupunta ka doon sa Optional Standard Deductions. Nakapili ka na ng itemized deductions. Hindi na po nila tatanggapin. Dapat, namili kayo on the first quarter, no? Yun, tatanggapin ng system. Pero ngayon, second quarter na, hindi na po yun tatanggapin. Next.
Yung mga tanong niya, ano daw pwedeng gawin para mag-less yung bayad ko ng 1701Q? Nakapag-encode na po ako ng first quarter,
Ikaw,
1701Q.
sagutin mo yan kasi ikaw yung technical.
OSD.
Sige. Sige, nakapag-encode na siya, anong gagawin niya?
Para daw males ma'am yung ano yung sa rent niya.
O hindi yan kasi avail ka ng optional standard deduction. Doon sa 40% kasama na yung rent doon. Hindi mo na siya ma-avail at hindi mo na siya pwedeng baguhin. No? Kasi pag sinabi mong optional standard deductions, yung 40% optional standard deduction, nakalump na doon lahat ng itemized deductions mo na 40% siya nung sales mo. Kaya ang labas, if you avail of the 40% optional deductions, ang labas noon, 60% ng income mo is taxable. No? Kaya forget about the itemized deductions. Wala ka na, hindi ka na qualified ng itemized deductions. But of course, doon sa compliance, iba yun. Ang 40% optional standard deduction is only for the computation of income tax, no, na babayaran mo. Pero doon sa actual, nandun pa rin yung mga itemized deductions mo at saka mandatory pa rin na mag-withhold ka doon sa mga deductions mo, just like rental, just like utilities, direct labor, yung mga delivery charges, may mga 2% yan, no? Excuse me. Yung mga contractual works, no? May ano yan, withholding. Okay, next.
Tapos ma'am, related daw po ba ang 2551Q at 1701Q?
Ay, yes. Yun na nga sabi natin. Although tiningnan ko ngayon, no? May ginawa kasi akong book na 10 Tips to Avoid Tax Problems. Nandun talaga nakalagay, reconcile all your returns. Kasi 1701Q, saan ba galing yan? Doon sa income mo for the first quarter. Yung 2550Q, saan ba galing yan? Doon din sa isang quarter mo na operation. So,
2551 daw ma'am,
2551Q, ganun din.
Percentage.
Kasi percentage tax naman yan. Yun yung gross sales mo. So, dapat tali sila. No?
Kung example daw ma'am, 100 yung sales niya sa January to March. Yung i-encode ko po ba sa 2551Q ay 100K? 100K din daw ba ma'am?
250Q. Ang 250, 2551. Oh yes, ganun pa rin. Wala. Kasi may adjustment ka lang pagdating sa VAT. Pag non-VAT, talagang pareho sila ng gross. No? Kasi sa VAT kasi, sa 2550Q, mag-adjust ka pa dun sa input. Whether inclusive siya or exclusive. Pero pagka ang kinuha mo na total is from your books of accounts, dun sa mga videos natin, net of 12% VAT yan. Kaya, pwede na yun yung kukunin mo na amount, no? As your tax base. Next.
Next ma'am, galing po kay Ma'am Josie Tindo Bambao.
Okay.
Ma'am Elsa, our school was registered non-stock non-profit.
Yes.
Tax returns form used in filing the ITR was the 1702EX since it's religious.
Exempt.
Apo. Since it's religious institution.
Okay.
But last school year, 2017 to 2018, form was changed into 1702MX.
Mix. Okay.
Since there was the income from canteen.
But
now no longer in operation. Can we go back to use the 1702EX?
Palitan nyo muna, mag-update muna kayo ng registration ninyo sa BIR. Hindi yan automatic ha. You have to apply. Kasi iba na yung classification nyo doon sa registration nyo. So, to revert back, na tanggalin nyo kung ano man yung gusto nyo ipatanggal, applyan nyo muna, iayos nyo muna yung registration nyo na una. No? Hindi yan pwede na diretso, no? May process po yan. Okay.
Apo, karugtong ma'am. And we need to file 1702Q.
Corporate yung 1702Q, kala ko 1701Q sila.
1702 siya ma'am. Non-stop non-profit na.
1702Q. Kasi nag-ano sila yung 1702 MX, no? AX. Ngayon, nag-1702 na sila. Taxable na yung other income nila? Walang sinasabi.
Wala po.
Okay. So,
kasi ma'am EX daw, tapos naging NX.
Ta-
Tapos gusto kong ibalik ulit sa EX.
applyan niyo po. Apply ninyo yung registration nyo. You use BIR Form 1905. No? Applyan ninyo uli yan para mabalik na sa dati. Pwede naman po. Kailangan lang kumpleto yung documentation nyo. Kasi parang isa-subject din kayo sa audit bago i-grant yan. Eh. Tagal na proseso yan. Okay. Next.
Yun pa lang ma'am yung question.
Okay. So, balik po tayo sa ating implementing guidelines from the CREATE law, no? Although, tiningnan ko rin yung mga provisions na veto yung sa CREATE law natin, no? Republic Act 11532. May mga provisions din dito sa batas na veto ni President Duterte, no? But I don't think naman na pagdating dito sa implementing guidelines, since huli lang ito, siguro naman na observe na rin dito sa implementing rules and regulations yung mga provisions na veto ng presidente. Yun nga yung dahilan na lahat, no, yung implementing guidelines matagal lumabas kasi hinihintay pa nila yung mga deliberations, no, the veto power ng presidente. So we'll continue with the strategic investment priority plan, no. This is under the Rule 4 provisions of the CREATE law, implementing guidelines. So Section 1, General Principles, the Strategic Investment Priority Plan, or SIPP, shall provide for the types of fiscal and non-fiscal support needed to A. Create high-skilled jobs to grow a local pool of enterprises, particularly micro, small and medium enterprises, SMME, that can supply to domestic and global value chains. No? So yun yung goal ng CREATE law, no? So may high-skilled jobs to grow local pool of enterprises. High-skilled jobs. Yan nakakatulong mga industrious, no? Sa industry. Yung high-skilled jobs to grow on local pool of enterprises. Yung high-skilled job kasi, pag nasamahan pa yan ng mga sophisticated din na mga machines, no? Ang dami na po produce niyan. Letter B, increase the sophistication of products and services that are produced and or sourced domestically. No? So, increase daw yung sophistication of products and services. No? So, you increase. Letter C, expand domestic supply and reduce dependence on imports. Yan. Kasi, paano mo ba ma-expand yung domestic supply? Lahat producer, no? Nako, malayo pa tayo sa yung domestic supply ng ating yung mga commodities. Nako, malayo pa tayo. No? Although, yun yung sabi ko nga sa inyo, nanonood ako nung YouTube channel ni Eva Subic, no? Yun yung taga-Poland na babae na i-stay siya sa mga villages. No, and then pinapakita niya how these village people survive, no? Matataba pa sila. Ang dami nilang pagkain kahit yung snow, no? Yung mga yak nila, yung mga pinakakaw nila, tinatago nila sa yung may mga improvised na barn sila, doon nila tinatago, no? Tinakakaimbak sila ng mga pagkain. No? Sa kanila is open na yun eh. Sa atin hindi eh. Kasi yung kakainin mo mamaya, hahanapin mo pa ngayon eh. Hindi tayo ganun ka proactive in the provision, no, ng mga needs natin. So, expand domestic supply and reduce dependence on imports. Kasi bakit tayo dependent on imports? Mas mura pa yung import kaysa domestically produced products natin. Letter D, attract significant foreign capital or investments. Okay. So, yun ang goal, no? Yung mga needs ng bansa, no? Letter D, attract significant foreign capital investment. Kailangan mo ng kapitalista. Letter A, promote export diversification and accelerate countryside development, no? As these are consistent with the tier and locational criteria of the SIPP. Formulation, the BOI, Board of Investment, in coordination with the FIRB, no? Fiscal Incentives Review Board, IPA, Investment Promotion Agencies, and OGAS, other government agencies, administering tax incentives shall formulate and recommend the SIPP for the approval of the President. No? Okay, so may approval pa sa Presidente. The BOI shall undertake consultation with the above-named agencies and all other relevant agencies on the proposed SIPP. Thereafter, it shall submit a report to the steering committee referred to in Section 7 of the rule. Excuse me. Section 3, SIPP shall contain the following. Priority project or activities that are eligible or qualified to be granted incentives under the Act. Yung mga priority projects. Scope and coverage of location and industry tiers. Terms and conditions on the grant of enhanced deductions. Yan, maraming tatamahan yan. Qualifications for expansion or entirely new product or activities to avail of the incentives. Criteria and conditions for existing registered projects or activities prior to the effectivity of the Act to register and avail of the incentives under the Act. No? So, yun yung mga conditions. Conditions and qualification for export enterprises registered prior to the effectivity of the Act to reapply and avail of SCIT after the expiration of the transitory period under Section 311C of the Act. No? So, yun yung mga qualification and conditions. Specific qualification requirements or conditions for a particular sector or industry and other limitations as set and determined by the BOI in coordination with the FIRB. Export of at least 70% of products and services. No? Criteria for investment priority determination. No? So, may mga criteria. Okay. Excuse me po. May question? Ha? O, sige. Answer muna tayo bago tayo pumunta sa investment priority determination.
Next, ma'am, galing kay Ma'am Bernadette Lonon. Yung question. Ma'am, sa VAT, professional fee lang, walang purchase.
Mm.
Kasi professional fee lang. So, anong deduction sa 1701Q bago siya na-register?
Ah, anong daw ang deductions?
Opo, ma'am. Kasi ma'am, sa VAT na professional fee lang, walang purchase.
Mm.
Kasi professional fee lang.
Services yun, okay.
Opo. So, anong deduction daw ma'am sa 1701Q bago siya na-register?
Wala po kayong, ano, yung usual na deductions. Wala naman siyang, yung parang purchases, no? Kasi, services lang siya, no? So, siguro yung mga deductions ninyo na utilities, yun yung pwede. But, alam nyo, very, few lang talaga yung inyong pwedeng i-apply na ah, deductions. That's why pagka mga services, ang ginagamit nila yung 40% optional standard deductions, no? Mas ano sila doon, mas panalo sila doon as compared na mag-itemize ka kasi wala talagang expenses na makiklaim. Kaya ang pinakamaganda, 40% optional standard deductions. Okay.
Opo. Next ma'am, galing kay ma'am Maylin.
Okay.
Sa 1701Q daw ma'am, i-add po ba yung total taxable income loss nung first quarter?
Yes, may column mo doon sa first quarter. And then, i-compute mo yung tax due. And then, kung magkano yung tax due, i-deduct mo rin yung binayaran mo on the preceding quarter. No? Or yung mga preceding month. No? Okay.
Yung 1701Q po ba ay cumulative po ba? Or
Yes.
current quarter lang yung i-encode?
Yes, tingnan po ninyo, yung 1701Q, cumulative siya kasi i-add back mo pa yung sales mo the preceding month. No? Cumulative po siya. Ang makita mo kasi na cumulative because sinasama din niya yung payment on the previous quarter and they deduct in order to arrive at the amount due. No? So, kasama po. Next.
Next po. Ano daw po yung non-operating income dun sa 1701Q?
Non-operating income are those extraordinary income. Ibig sabihin, yung ordinary income mo, yun yung sa operating income mo. Halimbawa, ang activities mo is merchandising. So, ano yung direct cost mo dyan? Yung purchases mo, no? So, equals your gross profit. Less operating expenses. Ano yung mga nandyan sa operating expenses mo? So, if you are a regular taxpayer, yung mga operating expenses mo, kagaya ng rental, may mga regular yan sila na withholding, no? And then, pagdating na sa net income, then you have the operating income ang tawag dyan, no? And then, i-add mo na ngayon yung other income or non-operating income. Ano yun? Yung hindi kasama sa operation pero nagkaroon ka ng income. Halimbawa, meron ka disposal ng machineries and equipments, no? So, yung disposal ng machinery and equipment is not a regular operation mo, no? Kasi wala ka namang pang-araw-araw na ibenta na property and equipment. So, halimbawa doon sa pagbenta mo ng property and equipment, nabenta mo siya ng 100,000, no? Ang cost mo is 80,000. So, kung kwentahin mo, may gain ka na 20,000. But, meron ka pang salvage value, no? Halimbawa na lang yung property, plant, and equipment na yan. Mabibenta mo pa siya ng 10,000. So, yung 10,000 na yan, other income mo yan, no? Yung makompute mo na ngayon kung magkano pa yung mapagbentahan mo doon sa sa property and equipment. And then ibalik mo pa as income mo yung salvage value. So yun po yung tinatawag na other income, other non-operating income. Hindi siya kasama doon sa regular mo na operation. Kaya ang tawag sa kanya non-operating. Next. Okay. Sige, so let's go to the registration and availment of incentives. So how are you going to register? Kasi may mga bagong company entitled din sa incentives, no? Or meron namang mga existing company na entitled din sa incentive. Pero applyan nila, no? So the authority to grant tax incentive is with the Fiscal Investment Review Board, no? So the power to grant tax incentive is function of the FIRB. So where the investment capital is equal to 1 billion pesos or below, the FIRB shall delegate the power to grant tax incentives to the concerned IPA, no? Ito yung investment promotion agencies. Concerned IPA, no? So investment promotion agencies. Sila yung magagrant ng incentives, no? So the firm, upon the recommendation of the concerned IPA, shall approve or disapprove the grant of tax incentives to registered projects or activities with investment capital of more than 1 billion, no, pesos. Okay. Splitting of the total amount of investment capital, ito naman yung mga ginagawa ng mga nag-iisip na mga abogado, no? So split naman nila yung investment capital, no, by breaking up the projects or activities into smaller projects or activities for the purpose of evading circumventing the jurisdiction of the FIRB to approve, no? Pero hindi siya dapat i-allow, no? It should not be allowed. Yung sinicircumvent yung jurisdiction ng FIRB to approve, no? So a finding that splitting of investment capital occurred, authorities, the BIR, the FIRB to treat the separate application as a single project or activity. Kasi ang ginawa ng registered enterprise, parang nag-fragmentize sila, no? In-split yung investment capital para lumiit at dumami. Hindi na siya makasama doon sa threshold na malaking amount, no? So the splitting of investment capital presupposes singularity of a project or activity by an act of the business entity was divided or broken into several smaller investment capital amounts, or was divided into artificial phases or stages having smaller investment capital amounts. Oh, so niliitan. The following be considered in determining whether splitting occurred, no? The nature of the activity or project, the similarities of the project's products or services, no? The expected customers or clients, no? So kasama din. The time interval between applications. Okay. The proposal start of commercial operation of the projects or other analogous circumstances. Okay. So yun. The exercise of FIRB's policy-making powers shall be guided by the following standards, no? So ito na yung standards ng Fiscal Incentive Review Board, no? Develop a more responsive and globally competitive tax incentives regime that is performance-based, targeted, time-bound, and transparent. Provide assistance to attract preferred investment, sustain economic growth and competitiveness. Create more jobs, transfer technology, develop skills for the local labor force, no? So, yan ang maganda, may transfer of technology. Promote fiscal responsibility in the administration of tax incentives. Provide assistance to promote exports of products and services. Promote the use of domestic inputs and development of rural areas. Enable parallel development for rural area and areas recovering from armed conflict and calamities. So yun po. Ang role-making power ng FIRB. No? Another, if there is a law requiring a minimum percentage of its directors to be Philippine citizens, the same has been complied with. No? So to determine compliance with the citizenship requirement for members of the board of directors, the basis shall be the positions actually filed exclusive of vacancies unless there is a specific rule to the contrary. And that the project or ability in which the applicant is engaged in is within its corporate powers and is not otherwise prohibited by law. May mga evaluation process, pero matatapos na natin to kasi yung iba dito, internal na to ng board, no? Okay. So how do you file? Method of filing fees. Application for registration shall be filed electronically through a system prescribed by the FIRB or through the system of an IPA. Anuhin mo nga to, Hari, yung system na nitong incentives nasa FIRB daw. So tingnan natin. Kasi doon yung filing ng application, no? And can be linked provided that the IPA system is interoperable with and can be linked to the FIRB system. Provided further that in the event that the FIRB or IPA system is unavailable, such application may be filed manually, accomplished in 2 copies, and sworn to before a notary public, or in any manner prescribed by the concerned IPA. No? So the fees applicable shall be determined by the IPA concerned. Hindi pa sinasabi dito yung mga fees. No? Section 4 are the basic documentary requirements. No? So the application shall be supported by the following requirements. Enterprise level, we have the Department of Trade and Industry or DTI or Securities and Exchange Commission. No? So yun yung pinakauna. BIR Certificate of Registration, tax identification number or TIN, and then we have the general company information. No? Business capitalization and ownership structure. So these are very important. Authorized business representative details. Latest audited financial statements if applicable. Meron tayo niyan. Project or activity level information. Locational, address, contact, activity, representative details. We have description, classification, and type of activity. We have project or activity setup, timetable. Committed investment capital and other related details. Facility or utility requirements, projected financial performance, projected sales, raw materials and production, projected employment, no, by type. Okay. May evaluation process, of course, evaluate yung application. And then we have the, sabi niya, incomplete application. Okay. So the concerned IPA shall notify the applicant of all pertinent requirements not complied with in 3 working days from receipt of such application. Okay. IPA evaluation process. If IRB evaluation process, so sila lahat ang i-evaluate. So, action on the registration. Okay, so the certificate of registration shall be issued by the concerned IPA. The COR shall state, among others, name and business address of the RBE or registered business enterprise, tax identification number of the RBE, unique control number, registered project or activity, tax incentives entitlement under agreed terms and conditions, and period of entitlement of tax incentives. So, yun na yung action on the registration. Ito naman yung issuance of certificates. Okay, so, conditions precedent for issuance of certificate: payment of registration fee, letter, or if a corporation resolution of the applicant's board of directors, formally accepting the proposed terms and conditions of registration. Sworn statement authorized by the board of directors, partner, or by the individual adopting or affirming all representations and commitments made by applicant to the concerned IPA. All pre-registration requirement, if any, imposed by the concerned IPA. Issuance of certificate. Pagka fulfilled na, no? So, bibigyan ng certificates. Okay. Application for tax incentives filed by the concerned IPA or investment promotion agency. Okay. So, there is an application for certificate of entitlement to tax incentives. Ano nga ulit yung mga tax incentives natin? Yung income tax holiday, no? And then we have the expanded deductions and yung ECIT, no? Yung simplified corporate income tax. Itong CT, ito yung certificate of entitlement to tax incentives, no? So may mga attachment, no, sa ITR, sa BIR. Name and business address of the registered business enterprise, tax identification number, unique control number, registered project or activity, name of IPA having jurisdiction over the registered enterprise, types and approved amounts of tax incentives, no? Okay, so may mga conditions din for the grant of tax incentives. Of course, titingnan ka kung qualified ka, no? And then may mga submission ng annual reports, beneficial ownership of the organization and related parties, no? And then may monitoring report. Okay. Then mayroon pang mga report din sa customs duties, no? May monitoring of the imported capital equipment, spare parts, and accessories. Kasi, alam nyo, pagka nag-avail kayo ng incentives, mas mahigpit ang monitoring dyan. Why? Because you are enjoying exemption in the payment of taxes where others are required. Kaya mahigpit ang monitoring, no? Power of the President to grant incentives. No? Okay. Tax incentives management and transparency. Ito na yung filing and submission of the annual tax incentives report, no? May mga requirement yan. Okay. So, for the annual benefits report at saka annual tax incentives report, ano yung mga pinapa-submit na reports? Ito yung cost data and then the benefits data, no? So for the cost data, income-based tax incentives, VAT exemption, value of VAT zero-rated, customs duty exemptions, itemized deduction. In short, yung mga na hindi na bayaran because taka-avail nga ng exemptions, no? And then benefits data, total number of Filipino employees, ito yung mga nakapag-benefit doon sa exemptions, no? So, ang dami. Role of the IEP is an OGS administering tax incentives. So sa government na yan. Okay? May question, Hari? Okay. So, yung mga tax incentives na to, may mga reportorial requirements, no? And then may mga penalties din po pag hindi nasunod. And ang pinaka mabigat na penalty is yung revocation ng exemption, no? Pag hindi sinunod yung mga requirements. Okay. So, maulan at mabagyo na Thursday night, no? So wala nang matulog tayo ng maaga, no? Kasi ano tayo yung may bagyo. Hindi maganda yung panahon. Okay? So wala nang questions? Okay. So with that, I would like, kasi wala din naman tayong tax updates, wala namang mga bago, no? So with that, I would like to say thank you po sa ating mga viewers and let's call it a night.